Hey everybody, Chris here. Thanks for downloading this episode of Fortune Comic News. Just a quick reminder, if you want to go that extra mile, go to patreon.com/Fortune Comic News where you can get the amazing Mike and that guy Chris show. $4 a month, that's 4 episodes, $4, that's $1 an episode. That's awesome. More content from us, and we appreciate you for doing it. Also, at $2 a month, you can get the Bat Friends podcast 3 days earlier than everybody else. That means you can be ahead of everybody on that one. But if you don't want to, that's fine. We still appreciate you listening. And if you could, go to your iTunes or whatever podcatcher you use, give us a 5-star review and leave us a review. It means so much to us. We appreciate everybody for listening, for reviewing, and all that. So I won't take any more of your time. On to the show. Comic News, episode 141. I am one of your hosts, Chris, alongside my co-host, Mikey Cupcakes.
Mikey Cupcakes? It's Ricky Cupcakes.
Mikey Cupcakes.
It's my new Dota name. Everybody is Ricky Cupcakes. Don't ask why, don't ask how. It's just funny and I enjoy it.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Oh, wait, whenever you do the intro now, I'm gonna do like the Kramer surprise, like, hello, I'm like, oh, like when he walks in the door. Yes, dude, welcome everybody.
I found the best ugly sweater, and it was a Festivus sweater, and I'm buying it for this year. It's fantastic.
I mean, do it. Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Festivus for the rest of us.
Festivus for the rest of us. Well, we have an awesome interview on the show today. You want to talk about that, Chris?
Yeah, Mr. Mark Poulton.
Mark Poulton.
What was it, Seadog and Codename
Killswitch. Yeah.
Killswitch.
It's an Indiegogo campaign. So we'll be talking about that a little bit. Really cool stuff. The art is like straight from the 90s. Really good stuff. I'm definitely interested. So stick around to hear about that.
Yeah, artist straight out of he did a Thunderbolts run that I really loved. He's got a real 90s like Liefeld feel to it. A little bit better than Liefeld, but and the colorist is fantastic. The color like reminds me of straight out of X-Men 90s comics. It's great.
Yeah, like pop art style. With that being said, we will not hold your attention with our dull conversation any longer. Let's jump into the news.
News.
TV Titans has been renewed for a 3rd season. And I still got to get through the 2nd season. Like I think I already talked about it. Yeah, I like the story and stuff, but I just can't get over that Raven actress. It's a no for me, dog. I don't like it's like I wish she didn't have to interact with everyone, but it's a Teen Titans show, so it's like she has to interact with everybody and just like sucks the life out of me in every conversation that she's in. It's like, oh, so I think there's just too many streaming services coupled with I wasn't really enjoying Titans that much, so I haven't renewed my DC streaming service.
The only reason I still have DC is because of Batman animated series and because I do a podcast about it.
Right.
I haven't watched any of their. The only like exclusive show they had that I enjoyed was Swamp Thing, and that got canceled. So
yeah, right. And they canceled it, so you lost my interest. Yeah. So the Russo brothers are doing something cool. They're making a documentary called Slugfest inside the epic 50-year battle between Marvel and DC. That'll be cool. And it's still happening today. I mean, we see the remnants of it, and it's the little jabs at each other. And the Russo brothers, those guys, let them do whatever they want pretty much after all the great stuff they've done at Marvel. So.
Yeah, and I hear the book is really good too, that this is going to be based on.
Oh, really?
It's really an inside look at kind of the back and forth and the little jabs and just the inside culture to what the different companies were doing. Because they weren't always multi-billion-dollar companies. They were just two small comic publishers fighting each other. So
cool.
I really want to read the book too, but I'm looking forward to them doing a documentary about it.
Mandalorian, have you watched both episodes yet?
I have.
Dude. Second episode, man, the Sand Cruiser and the Jawas. Like, what the hell? That was so awesome.
So I loved, first off, the first episode I loved.
Right.
it's a spaghetti western in
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And then the second episode kept with that vibe, and whenever you bring Jawas into it, like I'm down. It was great.
I love the fact that I mean, we see the person who forges the armor for the Mandalorians and stuff like that. But I like the fact that they almost have to earn their armor, and they're not very there's all these stories about the Mandalorian, but they're really not invincible. Like we see the second episode, we see him fail a lot. Like I mean, he tries to take down a sand cruiser all by himself, and he gets his ass kicked by the Jawas. Which is really, I mean, I like that he doesn't accomplish everything he sets out to do.
Yeah, and I like the little inside look to their culture and how they're kind of stowaways inside of this guild. And yeah, like you said, how they earn their pieces of their armor and become, the more fancier the armor, the more bigger of a badass you are, essentially.
Right.
Which is probably why there's so many stories about the Mandalorians, because the ones we know, or that the galaxy knows, have all this awesome armor and look sweet. So everything about it I liked. And then the ending with what everyone's calling the baby Yoda. I'm forgetting the name of the species now.
I don't think they've announced the species. Well, I know there never was a species name for Yoda, but
there was. Other Yodas have popped up in other media pre-Disney.
Okay.
The biggest example being Knights of the Republic. Like there's one of his on the original Jedi Council. So yeah, there is a name somewhere. There's too much information in this brain to keep all that, but I did like that addition to it as well, and I'm hooked. From episode 1, I'm hooked. This is how you get. I mean, I understand it's an existing property, so it's a little bit easier to jump right in.
Mm-hmm.
But that shows how you take an existing property, do something new and fresh, and yet keep people interested. Because I think universally this has been deemed a success.
Yeah, and Baby Yoda's cute as hell too. So.
Oh yeah, freaking adorable.
I could just watch it. I could just watch an hour of Baby Yoda, and that's another interesting thing too. The second episode was only like 30 minutes, so I don't know how many episodes are going to be that short, but it seemed very short.
Yeah, I think the first one was like 39 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but yeah. And the other thing too is they said it's going to be an every Friday thing. So they launched with the pilot, and then we got a second episode, which I was not expecting later in the week.
Right,
but it is going to be one a week on Fridays after that.
Yep. Yeah, I was not expecting the Friday. I thought it was a Sunday thing.
Yeah.
But speaking of Sundays, Watchmen is on Sundays, and man, what are we 4 episodes in?
Yes,
dude. This latest episode, we meet a new character, and I can't remember her name. She runs like the cloning industry, and she's building this tower in the town where all the cops are dying and stuff. I just can't remember her name.
Yeah, neither can
I. But she seems to be, and I don't know if she was ever referenced in the graphic novel. I never remember her popping up anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember her being in the graphic novel. It's been a few years since I reread it, but yeah, this episode it built on what the last episode did for me, which was prove to why this needs to be Watchmen. And
right.
I liked a lot of the things we saw in here. The cloning procedure with Vite.
It's so weird, man. He's like pulling clones out of the river or out of the pond, and like fetuses out of the pond, and then he just instantly grows them. It's so crazy.
Yeah. And then this woman, her tower, and how she connects in with everything. And the fact that there's some sort of plan, there's something going on that we're not privy to just yet going through all this.
She's building something, right? And also she has a statue of Ozymandias, whatever. And they make a comment to how he looks old. So, and that's accurate with how he looks now. So a lot of people are saying that like maybe Dr. Manhattan doesn't have him trapped, but this woman does. She has him trapped.
That's what I was thinking when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Because they say he goes missing, then she buys his company. So
right.
I was like, okay, so she trapped him and then bought his company.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, there's a great plot going on here. There's something different going on, and I'm hooked now. Like the first 2 episodes didn't do it for me, but these last 2 have been really great.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff going on, especially with the whole Silk Spectre, and you can't really hide anything from her. Like, she sees through all the bullshit, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like her. I think her character is a badass. It's almost like a Wonder Woman that's seen a lot of shit, you know? Like, tired of everyone's shit. Like, all right, cut the bullshit. We need to... yeah, so, and she was like, oh, yeah, I saw tire tracks in the crime scene. And it's like, oh, I didn't say it was a car. It looked like a wheelchair. And she was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, really good. And like you said, these last couple episodes have really kind of locked it in that I'm sticking around for the whole season. I think it's been great so far. What about Walking Dead? You still caught up with that?
Oh yeah, Walking Dead. So this episode was like all Walking Dead episodes, is two main stories, and we got Negan trying to join the Whisperers and that whole charade, which was kind of interesting because they did almost a bit by bit with like happy music going on in the background while he's trying to like acclimate himself to their ways.
That's weird.
And then the B story was Carol and Daryl crossing the border and capturing one of the Whisperers to torture. And well, it was Carol's idea the whole time. She tricked Daryl into doing it, but Carol's plan was to grab one and kind of get information out of him, possibly torture him. So it's, yeah, like I'm still really enjoying the episode. There was also the C story of them making contact with another group through the radio. So they kind of hint towards what became the ending of the comic. And I think the season's been great so far. This episode was not bad. There were some funny moments throughout it. I really like how Negan's coming along as a character in the show. He's reminding me more and more of the Negan I know from the comic, which I didn't think we got in the first couple episodes or seasons with him. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
cool.
It's good.
Yeah, I'm caught up on The Flash too, and yeah, it's just, I mean, they keep hinting more and more towards the crisis. This new Wells knows something about the Monitor and how he can prevent or at least save Barry or change the crisis or something like that. And then the whole, actually, it was this is the episode where Gypsy dies, and we find out there's like I forget what they call them, the Gypsy and Gypsy's father, who's played by Danny Trejo, comes back. It's pretty awesome. And it was a really good episode, but we find out there's someone impersonating Cisco that like murders her, and then they have to like figure out who did it. Yeah, I thought it was a good episode. Everybody's just super sad on this season. Like every episode is a new person is sad, so it's kind of depressing. But overall, it's been a pretty solid season so far, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. Movie news. Finally, Black Adam has been given a release date of December 22nd, 2021. Finally. Only have to wait a couple of years, I guess.
Yeah, it's when did we get our first announcement that The Rock was going to be Black
Dude,
Adam?
it has to be like 3 years ago.
Right? Like,
yeah, it feels like forever ago. Yeah. So I mean, let's see. I'm sure it'll get pushed out again. And then, I mean, it seems like we got more and more each week. Jamie Lawson has been cast in the Batman movie as an unspecified role. She's only ever been in one other film credit, so I guess we'll see who she is.
She's Batgirl.
She's Batgirl? You think?
Like, yeah, so they casted Commissioner Gordon as an African-American gentleman. I forget his name.
Yep.
And this girl is an African-American woman.
Mm-hmm.
So I like, based on the age and just the fact that you can get someone who they feel like is really good and young, and they can kind of get for the cheap, I think it's Batgirl. I really do.
For the cheap. we need an actress that's gonna stick around for a lot of movies, and we can get her for the cheap.
Listen, they got a lot of big names. They got to pay some money.
I know, they're already broke. They're like, oh shit, we spent all this money on these. Yeah, you're probably right.
They're breaking into that Joker money to pay for this.
Yeah. And speaking of the Joker movie, Chris saw it. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
but I don't know if do we want to talk about it here, or do we want to move it to our other exclusive Patreon podcast?
So, yeah, if you want deep dive into this, we're going to talk about it on Patreon. So you can go to patreon.com/ForceComicNews and get our full thoughts there combined. We'll do a whole spoiler talk. But long story short, didn't care for it.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a lot of things. Like, if it wasn't a Joker movie, I think it would have scored better for me.
Yeah.
The entire time, I'm just like, this is the Joker?
Right. Yeah.
And then the ultimate insult in this movie was the fact that I had to watch the goddamn Batman origin again.
And he texted me about it too. I didn't give him any warning. We all know how much Chris loves origin stories, and they got him. They're like, aha, you thought you'd see it at the beginning, now you see it at the end.
Nobody warned me. Nobody warned me. The fuck is wrong with all of you?
If we told you this, you wouldn't have gone to the movie, I think.
No, I would have.
You probably wouldn't have gone.
Like, I wouldn't have even, because this was like, I was kind of having a hard time going because I wasn't feeling it.
Right.
And for a few weeks now, I've been like, okay, I want to go, and something gets in the way. I want to go, something gets in the way. And finally, something didn't get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you told me, like, oh, they do the Batman origin again, I'm like, fuck this movie. I'm not going to see this movie.
Yeah, got him. Yeah, so like you said, check out our other Patreon exclusive podcast, The Amazing Mike and that guy named Chris, and we'll talk about it a lot more. But in the meantime, we're going to cut to this awesome interview, and we'll see everybody on the other side.
Welcome back, everybody. This week we have yet another very special guest. Welcome to the Fortress, Mark Poulton. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And, you know, we get some awesome indie projects, and that's pretty much how this podcast started. And we've interviewed some people from Marvel and DC, but this is like we're back to the roots doing these Indiegogo campaigns. And I love doing it because we see some awesome content, and this is one that caught our eye too. Seadog and Codename, Killswitch. And it's all, I mean, the art is fantastic, and you're the writer and co-creator, correct?
Yeah, I created it with my son and artist Clint Holinsky, and Clint's done work. He actually got his first job from Rob Liefeld doing Youngblood. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so if you can't tell, it definitely has a '90s vibe to it.
Yeah, it definitely does. But before we jump into that, let's talk about your origin in comics. Have you always liked comics? What made you want to write this comic?
Yeah. I always loved comics. I started out watching the G.I. Joe cartoon and playing with the toys. Mm-hmm. And if you remember back in the 80s, they would run a commercial for the toys, and it would tie in like the cartoon, and then at the end it would say also available in Marvel Comics, and they would put the cover of the latest issue. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe there's a comic book too. I need to get this. Yeah. So I had my mom. I looked in the phone book, Yellow Pages, and looked for the nearest comic shop I could find, and had my mom drive me over there, and I started collecting G.I. Joe, and from there I just started collecting other books, Spider-Man, X-Men, discovered DC Comics, was collecting them, but like my fandom really kicked off in the 90s when I started noticing guys like Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, and especially Rob Liefeld with New Mutants. Rob was my guy. He just seemed like a total rock star, and that's seeing like New Mutants and that becoming X-Force. I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to make comic books. So I have a huge love for 90s comics, the birth of Image Comics. I didn't break into the comic industry until early 2000s. I did an indie book that I wrote, and my friends did the artwork. It was called Coney Waves. It was about a female detective in Hawaii who solved supernatural crimes, and it actually caught the eye of Rob Liefeld, who was basically my hero.
Awesome.
And
That's so cool.
Yeah, I was a fan on his message board, and I posted like some of the work to it. And then one Thanksgiving, it was I think it was Thanksgiving 2006. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Usually I just let it go to voicemail. And I picked it up, and I was like, hello. And on the other end, I hear, Poulton, it's Liefeld. What's up?
Wow, man. That is so cool.
Yeah, he tracked down my phone number from other people on the message board, and he gave me a call, and he just told me that he really liked everything I was doing, and that he was thinking about eventually bringing Evangeline back, and he wanted me to be the writer for it.
Wow.
So yeah, I was just on cloud nine.
Yeah.
Getting Evangeline off the ground took a couple years. I kept nudging him, saying like, when's this going to happen? And during the downtime, he would give me other projects to work on. Like my first work with him, I scripted the backup stories to Image United #2, one of the few Image United books that actually came out. That's when all the founders got back together, and we're all drawing their own parts. So to be like a 90s kid idolizing these guys, to actually working on the same book with all of them, it was a dream come true. I scripted there was a Blood Strikes backup story. And then from there, I helped him relaunch Brigade back in 2010. And then 2011, Evangeline came out that I was the writer. Owen Jenny, who I think he's doing Rat Queens now for Image. He was the artist. It was a blast working on that. And then from there, Rob was doing a lot of work at DC for New 52. Mm-hmm. And they gave him a bunch of books, and he was like, I can do them, but I'll need some help. And they asked him who he wanted to work with. So he suggested my name for Hawkman, and DC was like, yeah, let's go for it.
Nice.
So he brought me on to Hawkman. We did we did a short run there. Rob eventually had a falling out with DC.
Yeah.
I got caught in the middle of that. So it was a short-lived run, but it was good times.
Let's just talk about Hawkman really quick.
Sure.
So like for you coming into it, and that's always a character that Chris and I bring up, because it's like, where the hell do we start for his origin? So like, I mean, you get Rob's like, okay, let's do Hawkman. Is that intimidating? Because it's like, I mean, the continuity in his origin has been like thrown around so many times. It's like, how do you handle a character like that, right?
Yeah, so it's weird because it was New 52 is like pretty much coming right off Jeff Johns' amazing Hawkman run, and they sort of just pushed that aside, and then they were going, no ancient Egypt origins. Right. We're doing more of the Hawk World Tim Truman stuff, which is awesome because I'm a huge fan of that. Mm-hmm. So we just got to start. That was sort of like the basis of it, but we got to start with a fresh start. The team before us didn't even do an origin issue for Hawkman. So when we started took over with issue 9, we basically did his origin and when he first came to Earth, and he wasn't even sure who he was. He was like trying to discover where he came from.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so after the DC falling out, where'd you go after that?
From there, I just pretty much did my own thing. I did a lot of children's books. My son and I, we wrote an all-ages graphic novel called Pizza Tree. We were nominated for a Ringo Award for Best Kids Graphic Novel. We didn't win, but later in the year we won the Moonbeam Awards, which is a National Children's Book Award. We won Best Kids Graphic Novel for that. And it was my son's idea. He was 4 at the time when he came up with it. We were just out to dinner one night, and he was like, Dad, I know where pizza comes from. I was like, oh, really? Where? And he was like, it's simple. You take a slice of pepperoni, you plant it in the ground, and a pizza tree grows. And I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. That needs to be a book.
I mean, the science is there. I mean, that's it. Yeah, he knows.
Awesome. So we it took us a while. I was working on other projects. When he was 7, the book came out. It got great reviews. It did really well, and we self-published it. So it was sort of like the starting point of the second half of my career, which basically now is self-publishing. Mm-hmm. From there, after Pizza Tree, my friend John Malin, he was an artist at Marvel. He was working on Cable, did Thunderbolts too. Mm-hmm. I had known him for years from Rob Liefeld's message boards, and back after I relaunched Brigade with Rob, I had reached out to John and said, hey, I have this idea about basically the Universal Monsters meets the X-Men. And John was like, "Oh, you had me at monsters. I'm in." And the book was called Graveyard Shift, and John started working on it. And I showed those pages to Rob, and Rob loved it, and he said he was going to help us set it up at Image. But then they announced like the Extreme relaunch back in like 2012, and Rob was like, "On second thought, I'd like John to be the artist of Youngblood. Would you mind, Mark?" And of course, I'm not going to hold my friend up from a good opportunity of getting paid work. So Graveyard Shift got pushed on the back burner, and Youngblood was done. John started working on Graveyard Shift again, but then he showed the pages to an editor at Marvel, and that's how he got the gig doing like Thunderbolts and all the other work he did there. So Graveyard Shift got put on the back burner again. And then when he finally left Cable, we decided to crowdfund Graveyard Shift, and the first volume made $106,000 on Indiegogo.
Wow.
And then the second volume, which we just wrapped up the campaign a couple of months ago, it made $174,000.
That is awesome. That's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, it's life changing, really. I mean, to know that there's another way to get your books out there besides having to jump through the hoops of publishers, that you can do it yourself and sell directly to the consumer. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I've been hard at work on the Graveyard Shift books. And while Graveyard Shift, the last campaign, was going on, my son got so excited and wrapped up in it. He was checking the Indiegogo page. He was asking me what's it up to now. And finally he was like, "Dad, we need to do something cool like that. I'm tired of doing kiddie books." And I was like, "Okay, we can do something cool." And we came up with Seadog.
Okay.
And when we were coming up with Seadog, Clint Polinsky, the artist, he reached out to me, and he was like, "Mark, I really like the like 90s vibe that you're going for in Graveyard Shift. Would you be interested in working with me?" And I was like, "Well, my son and I have this idea. I'm not sure how, thrilled you would be about working with me and my son." So I pitched him Seadog, and he said, "Oh, this is really cool. I like it, but I have this team of characters. Do you think we could incorporate them in any way?" And his characters were codenamed Killswitch, and they're like, they're straight out of the 90s. I mean, if you look at them, you can see what character influenced each one. And I was like, "Oh, these guys fit in perfectly with Seadog." I mean, you look at this team and you think they should have had their own cartoon series in the 90s. They should have had their own toy line. So that's basically how like the birth of this book came together.
It's so cool. So give us the pitch. What is the story?
Sure. So when a young meta is kidnapped by a group of superhuman traffickers, the government strike force known as codename Killswitch, they reach out to the world's greatest hero, Seadog, to try to recruit them to save this young meta. And Seadog is sort of, even though he's a dog, he considers himself a lone wolf. He doesn't want any part of a team.
I'm backing it just for that. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I need to hear. That's amazing.
So he's reluctant to join them, but when his master, because he really is a dog, his master, who's a young boy, gets kidnapped along with the meta, then he reluctantly joins up with them to battle the mysterious villain of our story. And
the characters, I mean, Crotch Rocket, that's awesome.
Yeah, Crotch Rocket is a fan favorite. So the whole meaning behind his name, he has a sky cycle that he can pull out of a portal whenever he needs it.
Okay.
But the artist Clint, he likes to say Crotch Rocket's greatest weapon is his pants.
It's so funny because there's a recurring, like we always did a segment we used to about shitty villains, and one of them that would reoccur would be, it was from Doom Patrol in the 90s. It was Codpiece. And I mean, when I saw that, it just reminded me of it. But that's awesome. And you have some other awesome characters here too. But like Stormborn almost reminds me of like He-Man.
Oh yeah. Clint is a huge He-Man fan, so definitely drawing some inspiration from there.
Cool. So how are you laying the story out? Is it going to be in one trade or
right now it's planned as a two volume graphic novel series. First one is the team coming together, and then the second one will continue the story.
Okay. Cool. And you have like plans to go further with this after that? I mean, we can't say the Indiegogo is successful. It just got funded today, right? So
yeah. I mean, basically the fans dictate what they want. If they want to see more Seadog and Codename Killswitch, I'm more than happy to keep writing their adventures.
Yeah, and I think the art definitely plays to it too. The whole '90s. It's interesting because there was so much of it in the '90s, and then we almost got sick of comics, and there was an oversaturation. You know, everybody was printing something, and then it's like now when I see books like this, it's like I gotta have them. I don't know, something about that art kind of like grabs me. Yeah,
I feel like nostalgia. Right. We're the right age that we want this back now.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out too, besides Clint's great artwork, our colorist is Andrew Dahlhaus, and Andrew's the colorist of the current Bloodshot series from Valiant, and I think that's like one of the nicest looking books on the market today.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, the colors for the art on there really pops really nicely.
Yeah, we told him we want pop 90s bright poppy colors, and he nailed it.
Awesome. So how long do you have left on the Indiegogo?
We have we were fortunate that we funded really early. We still have a little over 6 weeks to go. So yeah, now we're trying to we announced our first group of stretch goals. The next stretch goal for us is at 7,500. All backers will get a 6x9 print of Seadog and Codename Killswitch versus Graveyard Shift. So I'm hoping all the Graveyard Shift fans that have made my last two campaigns incredible, want to get in on this. And
for anyone looking to back it today, what are like the goodies they can get for the extended pledges?
Oh, sure. So there's the basic cover by Clint. We have a $50 tier where you get the book, an Ashcan preview of Volume 2, and a trading card set of all the members of the team. There's a $75 tier, and that's our John Malin. John has his own fan base called the Malin Militia, and so we were lucky enough for John to do a variant cover for us. So with the $75 tier, you get the standard cover, John's variant, the Ashcan, the trading cards. $100 tier, you get all of that plus a head sketch from Clint. And then we have our big $250 Dogs of War tier where you get everything plus a Seadog hockey jersey.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm pulling inspiration from the 90s. I remember Extreme Studios had those varsity jackets, and Todd McFarlane had the Spawn hockey jerseys. And I was like, a hockey jersey with Seadog's face on it, with your name and number on the back, that'd be so cool. Yeah. And I found a place that was, able to do it for us. So I'm hoping no one's bid on that yet, but at the very least, my son and I will get the Seadog hockey jerseys.
Yeah, you're going to get one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you talk about all those other books you did, like Graveyard Shift. Is there a place where people can go to check those out?
So John and I, we wanted to make Graveyard Shift really exclusive. Wanted to build an urgency to back the campaign when it's running and there's no way else to get it. So once the last date of our campaign hit, most Indiegogos have the option of going to the in-demand store. We didn't do that with Graveyard Shift. If you want to get the books, you have to get it during the campaign. So you might be able to, we already have Graveyard Shift 3 in the works. But there's also, it's crazy, the secondary market on eBay for Graveyard Shift. There's copies going for $200, which is nuts. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, there's a great demand for it then. That's really cool.
Yeah. My wife keeps telling me to put my copies up on eBay, and I'm like, no. I'm like, no, it'll dilute the market.
Yeah, right. Then the price goes down.
Yeah.
You got to be a speculator about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for being on the show, Mark.
I appreciate you guys reaching out to me and giving me this opportunity to pitch the book.
Go to the main show. Where's the best place to follow you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Coney Waves. That was my first comic book, which I talked about.
Yep.
I'm also on Facebook, just as Mark Poulton. Just look for the Seadog profile picture.
Cool. Thank you so much for being on, man. You're really great, and I hope that the book is successful for you. It looks awesome.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
Awesome stuff. Always great to have indie creator-owned books, and I love that. The Indiegogo has been really cool, and it's they're projects that people are so passionate about that they're really trying to get themselves out there, promote the book themselves. It's I don't know. I think there's something extra with those books, and obviously he's had some really good successful Indiegogos. So please check it out. It's got, I don't know what, 40 days left or something, like 6 weeks left. So
it's 6 weeks. So
yeah, I know I'm really interested in it too. So for sure. But with that, let's hop on over to the comic news.
Comic.
The foundation of this podcast. And when I see Ahoy on the news, Ahoy makes me a happy boy, because Ahoy's doing awesome stuff. And it's not just Marvel news all the time, for once.
Yeah. Shout out to Ahoy, because we were there with them early on, and they're great people.
Right. Yep. So they announced a new series from Mark Russell and Steve Pugh. Pugh. Okay. I hope it's not Pooh. We'll go with Pugh. Called Billionaire Island for February. It shows the story of a group of billionaires on their private island waiting out the apocalypse. What a great story. If I didn't know the writer for this and they said, this is a new Ahoy comic, this is the plot, I'm like, it's got to be Mark Russell writing it.
Yeah, right.
So we know how much he loves the relevant, controversial topics, but he does them so well. You know what I mean? He doesn't pick a side, really. He doesn't get all preachy with it. He does it. It's very tastefully done, I think.
No, anyone that wants to do politics and comic books, read Mark Russell.
Yeah,
he's the only man I can think of off the top of my head that's doing him right.
Yeah, for sure. It's like I don't know anyone else that does it like that.
Yeah, and throw it out there too. This is the same creative team from Mark Russell's Flintstone run. So I really love that book. If no one's checked it out, that's what got me into Mark Russell. And they're back together for something cool.
Another awesome book announced by Ahoy. This one I'm really interested in. It's creators Tom Pear and Alan Robinson, called Penultiman for February. This story shows an all-powerful superhero with issues of self-hate. Dude, really cool. I mean,
I like that Tom's diving into the psyche of the superhero, and the idea of they're dealing with the same kind of issues we are,
right?
And not just Spider-Man's a person like we are. He gets rejected by girls. This dude's has self-loathing and depression issues and all this other shit, and it's a great way to tell a superhero's tale nowadays, and not have it feel like everything else out in the market.
Some Marvel news here. Falcon and Winter Soldier is getting a 5-issue series this February from writer Derek Landry, artist Federico Vincentini. Two ex-Captain Americas versus a strange new leader of Hydra. So what's better than Captain America or former Captain Americas? I don't know. Chris is going to read the book, though.
Cha-ching.
They got my vote.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about that?
And I feel like with what's going on in Cap and Cap-related comics recently, this new mysterious leader of Hydra is the evil Steve Rogers, which will just make it that much more awesome.
That much awesome. Yeah, you're like, give me 2 issues. I had a feeling that was going to be the evil person. The next news here is writer Christos Gage and artist Todd Knock are helming a 5-issue series spinning out of Amazing Spider-Man, the one you've all been asking for. It's called Gwen Stacy.
But wait, Mike, Gwen Stacy died in the 70s.
Wait a second. she's still a character?
Yeah,
I mean,
Nick Spencer is going to have to prove to me that this is worth it because it's spinning out of his book.
Yeah.
And like, I want to know why is Gwen Stacy back?
Why is she back? And why is it not Spider-Gwen?
Because no.
my only problem with this is like if Spider-Gwen isn't popular, then I think solo Gwen Stacy book is going to be popular. But that's just me.
Spider-Gwen is very popular. I'm in the minority on this, like I am with things. But
right.
People like Spider-Gwen. But I mean, there are Spider-Gwen books out there, or whatever the hell they're calling her these days. It's one of those things. Like it used to be that death wasn't forever unless you were Uncle Ben, Bucky Barnes, or Gwen Stacy.
Yep.
Bucky came back in the early 2000s. Now it's Gwen's turn. When we getting zombie Uncle Ben?
Uncle Ben. Well, actually, Uncle Ben has just lived on through the rice, so that's pretty much he's immortal through that. Okay. Nebula is getting her own limited series from Vita Ayala and artist Claire Rowe this February. If you like Nebula, there you go.
Good on Nebula. Didn't seem like an interesting story to me.
Yeah. This is cool. Aftershock Comics announces God Killer, a new series from Sable and artist Man House this February. The series is about a special forces group tasked with taking down fantasy monsters in the real world. Now you have my attention.
This sounds cool, right?
Yeah, this sounds awesome. You take my money. Like this is the kind of news I want to read about.
Yeah. So I think this looks cool. The art attached to it was fantastic.
Yeah.
This is one of the Aftershock has some really cool books coming down the pipeline. They're definitely worth looking at.
Cool. Deceased is back with Deceased Unkillables. Money grab for sure. A 3-issue series from Deceased creators Tom Taylor and Carl Moster this February. Series will show the villain side of the events of Deceased. So I mean that's pretty cool. We'll see how far they go with the story.
I like Deceased. I like Tom Taylor.
Yeah, Tom Taylor.
Down.
Yep. Alfred is officially dead, and we'll get a one-shot comic about the aftermath titled Batman Pennyworth Rip, R.I.P., by writer James Tynion IV and Peter J. Tomasi with various artists this February. Do I care that much? No. I don't know.
So from people I know, including yourself, that are reading Batman, they make it sound like Alfred isn't dead.
Right.
This kind of confirms Alfred is dead. So one, I guess that's kind of a spoiler, but two, that makes me happy because that means that the promise of Tom Taylor saying something's going to happen that's going to change Batman forever is happening or did happen, and we're going to get a Batman without a support structure, at least in some way. So, I mean, that's good news, but yeah, the one shot, meh.
Yeah. New creative team for Justice League. Okay, moving on. No, just kidding. Robert Vendita, artist team Doug Mank, and Jamie Mendoza will take over the series with issue 40. And just, I mean, if it's a book that I'm reading, this is typically how it goes. I'll check it out for the first 5 issues or so, see how this goes. But it's going to be hard to live up to what's happening right now, though. I'll tell you right now.
So there was a typo there. It's Robert Venditti.
Robert Venditti. I was like, who's Vendita? Yeah, Venditti. Yeah, sorry.
But see, for me, it's always dependent on the creative team.
Yeah.
And I've been loving Justice League. I think Venditti was one of the only people that could get me to keep reading Justice League.
Right. Yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm down to check out what he's got planned.
He's been doing awesome stuff. His Green Lantern run was cool. He seemed to get done. Yeah.
Including Exo Manowar. Like I love Exo Manowar that he did, and I could care less about that character. So
he's basically leaving. I guess he would be leaving. what am I trying to say? The Freedom Fighters to go to this, right?
Yeah, I mean, Freedom Fighters got to be close to done.
Yeah, I think there's like one or too much.
I wouldn't be surprised if his part in Freedom Fighters is done.
Yeah. So I mean, and Freedom Fighters is one of our favorite books out there. So I guess it makes sense. Yeah. I mean, he's pretty much earned it at this point. I mean, this guy, everything he touches, he pretty much understands the fan base, and I think that's what he was doing with Freedom Fighters. So yeah, it's only good things, I think. DC will release a one-shot Superman Villains #1 by Brian Michael Bendis and Greg Rucka, and more this February. This issue will show the effect of Superman revealing his identity to the villains of the world.
You're not reading Superman anymore, right?
No, I haven't. I'll stop.
Okay, I still am.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna pick it up because it's part of the run, but I'm not super excited for this.
Why is he revealing himself to the villains?
The wording there is weird. He's revealing his secret identity in January.
Oh.
So everybody's going to know that Superman is Clark Kent. And then this is kind of the villain side of that. Like, now that they know that Clark Kent is Superman, how do they feel about it? So.
Oh, no.
The whole revealing secret identity thing, I mean, I don't know why Bendis is pushing this. Like, you
don't get
it. Like,
yeah.
You did it at Marvel, and now there's no secret identities at Marvel, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand this, but we'll see. If he's got a story in mind, let's see what he's got.
Yep. Leviathan has been unmasked, but that's not the end. The story from Event Leviathan is set to continue this February with Leviathan Dawn #1, and is in Action Comics 1018. Yep. So pretty much Leviathan finished this week, or Wednesday this week, and they're like, that's not all, though. If you want to see the cool part of this story, head over to Action Comics.
This is straight out of the Bendis playbook.
Yeah.
I know you being more of a DC fan, haven't gotten into a lot of Bendis stuff, but this is what he does.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just one event. It's like 2 or 3 events that all tie together.
Right.
Or it's an event that leads into something that he's doing. And a part of it, I mean, it works sales-wise because then people read this, they get excited, they jump into action.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we can jump right into what are we reading if we want, because I think we both read Event Leviathan. Yeah,
so let's talk about it, because you said, they get excited about it and then they read it. I was not excited. I immediately was like, this is bullshit. I'm not going to go read Action Comics. Which, not to say that, not anything against Action Comics, but for me, like, me reading that was like, I just knew it was just like a cash grab to get more people reading Action Comics.
Yeah, so for me, I'm already reading Action and Superman, so
right.
I'll continue. I did like that it brought a character we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, so Manhunter at the end of it was Leviathan, right?
Yeah, Mark Shaw,
the original Manhunter. And, I mean, the Manhunters have been depicted throughout all the years and stuff, and then they were kind of like the original Guardians, like the original Green Lantern Corps almost.
Yeah, so that's Leviathan. We got him.
I kind of like that. I mean, it was an obscure character that we haven't seen in a while, but also like Slane revealed him in the newspaper.
Yeah, it was a weird exit for all that.
Yeah.
But we got a character I haven't seen forever. I am reading the other book, so I'll pick up Leviathan Dawn.
He's just like, no, not my one weakness, free press. Somebody stop. That's how I felt. I was like, no, not the internet forums. What do I do? But yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was, as far as like miniseries go, it wasn't the worst miniseries I've read. I don't know. If you're reading Action Comics, obviously you're probably going to enjoy it a lot more, but I'm not. So
yeah, and I think that was a big part of it. Is so much of it tied into what Bendis is doing with Superman.
Yep.
Maybe that's why I liked it a little bit more, but I still don't think it was the greatest thing ever.
Green Lantern, Black Stars, #1. This is the continuation of the story where Grant Morrison took off after the 12-issue Green Lantern series. So basically, where we ended on that 12-issue series was Controller Mew rewrites reality. Like, he assembles this miracle machine and he rewrites reality pretty much. That's like he creates a new dark version of the Green Lantern Corps, and he wipes out the Green Lanterns. So it's a pretty cool issue. Basically, Hal Jordan is Parallax, but I mean, he looks like Hal Jordan, but they refer to him as Parallax. He's basically going around. They're recruiting more people to join the Black Stars. There's a really cool scene and it's super Grant Morrison-y writing, where it's like they meet these otherworldly creatures, and some of them are really obscure. We get to see Oa, where that used to be the Green Lantern Corps was residing there, but now it's like a wasteland. And like these demons and like monsters hang out there. So they go, they pretty much like, it's like a wasteland for prisoners of like demons and stuff. So they go recruit. They're like, well, since you guys are trapped for an eternity, you might as well join the Black Stars and like work with us. It's like, what else do you got to do? So that's pretty cool. And they talk about how like Controller Mew is trying to shape everything in his own image, and he's kind of like the overlord of everybody. And that's pretty much where we left off in the first issue, kind of like, laying the foundation of what are they going to be doing with this new dark, Lantern Corps. Pretty interesting. I like Grant Morrison, and the art is fantastic, so I'm going to keep with it. Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man came out a couple weeks ago by Tom Pear. Everybody knows how much of a huge fan I am of this book. The first issue is just like, you get a crossover from Earth Omega and Earth Alpha of they're chasing Devilman, and it's so funny because like the 60s version, the 60s Batman version, we'll call him, of Devilman, like he has a device that turns people evil, where it's like the Dark Knight version of Devilman, like he like genetically mutates creatures to make them look like demons, but they're really just like normal creatures that he like cuts up and sews back together. And he infects their blood with almost like a psychedelic, like a drug cocktail that turns people insane. Like, it makes you go off the rails and want to hurt people and murder people. So it's definitely a dark twist on this like almost shitty villain that you see in like the 60s. So basically both issues kind of line up where Devilman infects Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man, so he's turning evil at the end of the issue. But it's just so funny to see the two different comic book science ways of how they do that. Like the Dragonfly Man, the Dark Knight version is more realistic and would actually be something that would like more grim and dark, where it's like the 60s Batman is like, yeah, it's just that way because it is, which is, it's funny that he's still playing on that. And it's cool to see like in real time, like both those happening and how the stories unfold. Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Blackest Night. Have you read that?
I did.
What did you think? First impressions.
Least favorite of the Dark Multiverse books.
Yeah, holy crap, man. Okay, I'm glad you felt that way. I don't know where it was. I couldn't have told you where this book was going. And first off, when you revolve a book around like Dove, I know like Hawk and Dove were part of Brightest Day, Blackest Night, but like, I don't know. It just wasn't. I think the coolest part was seeing like the Blackest Night version of the New Gods. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, like, so the lead characters are Dove and Lobo.
Yeah.
So you lost me there.
I'm not a huge Lobo fan. I can't get into that character.
No, and the whole premise I didn't care for.
Yeah.
I felt like something good could have happened out of that. That went a different way, but
right.
It is what it is, and it's just kind of like, Sinestro fucks up and he gets a second chance and he half fucks up again.
Yeah.
Like I said, the other two I thought were way stronger. Mm-hmm. And I think that has a lot to do with Snyder being attached to those two and actually having kind of story control over it, where this one, his name isn't anywhere near it.
It's kind of hard. it's kind of hard to do a dark multiverse twist on such an evil event. You know what I mean? Like Nightfall, there wasn't like a good or bad, or the other ones that we've seen. Can't even think of them.
It was Nightfall, Death of Superman.
Death of Superman, but there aren't these forces of light and dark. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I mean, Superman dying is kind of dark, but the Blackest Night thing is like, I don't know. I don't.
Well, I like I said, I like the premise of everything because all they are what if comics, and what if here is what if Sinestro didn't share the light, lantern power. But I thought the execution of it wasn't that great. Yeah, to bring like Lobo in and then make him the creator of all the new species, it was just weird. I was like, you lost me. Yeah, and then for me, like you bring in, like seeing Darkseid, Black Lantern was cool, but when you bring in the new gods, for me, I kind of zone out a little bit, and especially the whole like Mr. Miracle like ruins everything because Big Barda's gonna die with it. Like fuck off. Yeah, I know. Like that was such a stretch for me. Like I understand it's his long lost love and blah blah blah, but like I don't think that Mr. Miracle is going to damn the whole universe based on Big Barda. Like, there's other and Big Barda wouldn't want him to. You know what I mean? Like, as far as those characters are. Yeah, like there's other fish in the sea, Mr. Miracle. Like, get over it. Yeah, and I don't think that wasn't true to his character. Just cop out like that and be like, oh no. So it wasn't. I mean, we're shitting on it, but it wasn't the worst book ever. But it was my least favorite of the but honestly, I would just go back and read Blackest Night. It just made me want to read Blackest Night. I read the Dollhouse Family #1 from the new Joe Hill imprint, where he's at these imprint books. He's doing his own little mini series at the end of it. I haven't caught up on that mini series yet though. This is a pretty good. All these like supernatural / horror books that he's helping publish, I guess, or edit, because he's not writing all of them. But this one is pretty interesting. This little girl gets a new dollhouse and there's some magical powers, but they're kind of evil. Like her parents are fighting out. Like the dad abuses the mom, and at the end of the issue, basically she asks the dollhouse for help. And there's like this black room within the dollhouse, like she's shrunken down, interacting with the characters, and it leads to her like grabbing a hammer and like killing her father. But there's a B-side story of like the origin of the dollhouse. And the so-called like person that it was passed down from was an explorer, and he finds like this cave with a giant in it, and he like meets this woman. They hook up, and that's like the B-side of the story. I don't know what's happening there, but it was pretty cool. I mean, I like this type of like dark horror stuff, and there isn't a whole lot of it, especially in the mainstream. So. I like it, and I don't know if this miniseries that Joe Hill is going to connect them all or something, but the last couple books I've read so far have been good, so I recommend that if anybody's a fan of horror or something that's not your everyday superhero comic. Cool. Yep. Is that everything? Yeah, that's me. That's it. Superman #17. This was kind of a day in the life story. Superman helping an intergalactic issue, coming back down to Earth, talking to Lois, finding kind of a rogue agency inside of SARD Labs that's creating these portals that could affect the entire world and stuff like this. And then the ending is him taking Kara to this new planet that Zod has founded as New Krypton, and them having a conversation about it. It was an okay issue altogether. I like that we got, not only we get to see New Krypton finally, but the interaction between Kara and Zod, how Zod's kind of trying to turn a new leaf and make this his calling in life. And Kara like blatantly says like, I don't like the way we're talking to each other right now. Like, you think I've forgotten that you've tried to kill us multiple times? Right. And he's like, okay, yeah, I get it. But I like what Bendis is doing with Zod there, trying to, do something good with himself after the events of Rogal Zar. Decent issue. The art is done by Kevin McGuire. So we talked about 90s comics earlier. It's a real throwback to 90s comics there as well. Guardians of the Galaxy number 11. It was a big setup for issue 12, which is going to be Donny Cates' last issue on it. But I have a feeling that issue 12 is going to let us down. Because if you get to the last page, it literally says everything that happened since Thanos wins, including... Let me make sure I get this right. Yeah, next issue. Thanos wins, Cosmic Ghost Rider, The Death of the Inhumans, Silver Surfer Black, Guardians of the Galaxy, all leads to this issue. Sounds like a setup for a letdown, right?
Yeah.
But it was interesting. It was all the Draxes got loose and the Guardians are fighting them. And in the aftermath of everything, Rocket's like Gundam suit got torn apart, and that was the only thing that was keeping him alive.
Mm-hmm.
So we end with the suit and tattered and destroyed, and Rocket just sitting on the ground, struggling to get up. It was an okay issue, but issue 12 is really the big one for me. Like, that's going to determine everything here.
Yep.
X-Men number 2. This was the Summers family going out on an adventure together. They find out that Krakoa is heading towards this other island, and they don't know what the other island is. So they go to the other island, and they start fighting all these monsters and beasts, and they find this other species of not really humans, but not aliens living there, and make contact. And long story short, the two islands fuse together, and it's explained in the most Hickman-y way possible of the two islands are in love, so they needed to form together to become one. Welcome to Hickman, everybody.
Hickman, like, it makes sense.
Invaders number 11 has Steve Rogers and Namor trapped on a desert island together. So Invaders Survivor. And they find a military base on there. And of course, it's Roxanne experimenting on people. So they end up fighting together. There's a backstory about the invaders during World War II and right after Cap being unfrozen. And it's basically a story about Cap telling Namor that you've done bad things and they're not all your fault, but, you know, we made a pact, once an invader, always invader, we can fix this. And they're going to get the gang back together and go out there and fight. So it was a cool issue, but I look forward to the next one because Human Torch, Toro, Wildfire, all these characters are coming back and going to be in the Invaders book, so I'm really happy. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order Dark Temple was a good issue, but it was a lot of light sword fights. For anyone that's played the video game, it starts to make sense to why these are connected. Because I remember you read the first issue, but early on I was like, I don't understand. Like, I don't see a connection here. If you've played the video game and even reading this, you'll see why there's a connection here. And it's been pretty cool so far. Speaking of Star Wars 74, which is the second to last issue. And it's a continuation of the three stories that have been going on. And all the characters coming together. And eventually they're going to have to get to Hoth. So it's been an okay story, but we're kind of, you know, second to last issue. We're in Destination area, and I kind of just want to get to the next series because we know where this ends.
Right.
They get to Hoth.
Yeah, they go there. Yeah, it's like, come on, get there already.
And then my last one is they changed the name to Darkseid in the Justice League Odyssey, number 15. First of all, awesome cover. It's so if you're watching on video, you can see the first cover page is see-through.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I really like the cover. DC did this for all their books this week.
Nice.
And we have this like race that's coming to kill all the new gods. When they know that the end times are coming, their job is to come and kill the new gods and take over the universe. And they're kind of all powerful. So our team now has one of them on the ship, and with Orion on the ship as well. He's trying to kill him. And they come to a kind of a barter. Like, listen, we're heading to go fight Darkseid. You want to kill Darkseid. we can't do it without you. So why don't we team up and do this together? And then afterwards, we go our separate ways. And if you decide to try to kill our partner here, you can. And he agrees. On top of that, we're really dealing with Jessica Cruz coming to terms with her new powers, absorbing the Omega beams, and how it's affecting her power set as a Green Lantern. Really love this issue. Love this series altogether. I really recommend it to anybody. And it looks like the next issue is going to be Darkseid and his new gods against our team with Jessica Cruz and a bunch of other ragtag characters. So that's all I had. So with that being said, Mike, where can people find you on those internets?
They can find me at Fortress Ricker. Where can they find you and or the show?
They can find me at Fortress Chris on Twitter, and they can find the show at fortresscomicnews.com, where everything we do is right there on that handy-dandy website. As we told you at the top of the show, remember, 5-star reviews on podcatchers, like, subscribe, share on any YouTube or anything else, and patreon.com/fortresscomicnews, where you can support us there and get cool perks. So everybody, thanks for listening, and we will see you all next week.